Hey, welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. It's been a couple days since we've done coffee. We've had Tropical Storm Debbie come through, and there was a lot of rain. There was just a lot of work to do to make sure that everyone was ready. It was not, in the end, truly significant, but there was a lot of loosening, tightening, retying lines up and down the docks because we did get sustained high tide levels. Higher than normal, but not like 3 feet higher than normal. About a foot. We're in an estuary, so a tidal estuary, so our tides are not like something you would see somewhere else where you go up and down 5 or 6 feet over the course of a day. You know. So there was a lot of that. There was a lot of rain. There was a lot of putting tarps on the boat, and I did finally build the initial boom tent frame. So we'll talk about that as well. Let's see. What else do we have? Obviously, you can see that we've got, some cloud cover this morning and off and on, thunderstorms throughout the day. So I'll be dealing with that. I've got a small dinghy project that took up several hours, basically an entire day of just retrieving and organizing parts and getting ready to do the repair work on it. We haven't done the repair work on it. So hopefully I'll get a video of that out. Coffee, morning coffee. The other thing, of course, is that I am an American, and currently we're dealing with some American political issues. And it does take time if you want to be involved in your society at all. Stuff like the English threatening to extradite us for saying bad things about their political situation is stupid. Like, okay, redcoats, come on, let's do it again. Whatever. That doesn't even count except as an amusement. Or the European Commissioner, who has decided that because one of the social media platforms based in the U.S. has refused to agree to censorship rules in the European Union, we are doing bad things in England and with our American political speech that are liable to get Elon Musk, I think, arrested in the EU because he's engaging in American politics and because the platform that he owns a majority share of apparently doesn't censor the English. Although all of the arrests for speech crimes in England are based on Facebook posts and Instagram posts and, well, not actually Twitter or X or whatever it's called now. So that's always very interesting. It takes time to stay abreast of the stuff, I guess. The much bigger time suck, of course, has been the presidential campaign in the United States, where one side has announced a vice presidential candidate who is nominally a veteran, 24 years of National Guard service. So 24 years as a reservist. And that's fine. That's good. But he has presented himself for 2 decades as more than he is. Not that his service is not valuable, but for a lot of veterans, there's an idea that you make claims and you can kind of exaggerate your service. I can say stuff. I'm a war veteran, but I'm never, I'm not going to say I was with SEAL Team 19 at the front lines of the highway of death in the first Gulf War. I'm a first Gulf War veteran. I did logistics blockades. I stopped ships and trucks on occasion from going and supplying war effort materiel to the Iraqis. That's pretty basic. It's not like super combat or anything. It's mostly flying around in a plane or logging flying around in a plane. It's not super anything, but it is a real job, and real things happen. People do lose their lives in engine maintenance, airplane mishaps. You have to do the job right. The military performance characteristics are the same regardless of what the system is. And so, we have this guy who did 24 years, and then the first time his reserve unit got called up to go on a deployment, he verbally made several promises to his command that he was going to show up, that he was going to do the job. And this wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to go type on a computer. This was being the senior enlisted representative for an entire battalion. So, like, literally thousands of dudes being called up to leave their families and go overseas for the first time. This is their emotional, logistical, physical discipline support dude. This is the guy, okay? This is their CMC, and I was Navy Command Master Chief. This is the guy who walks around the entire ship with his coffee mug, making sure that everything actually runs regardless of the regulations, making sure that no one's going to go commit suicide regardless of the regulations. It's an important job, and he promised to do it. The thing is not that he didn't do it, it's that he verbally promised after the warning order came out that he was gonna be there, and then he ghosted, retired, wasn't even present for his own retirement paperwork signing, didn't take the reduction back to his permanent rank. He was a provisional battalion command sergeant major because he still had classes to do, he still had badges to earn, and none of that would have mattered on deployment. He would have been the dude. They would have signed off all the paperwork, retired him as such. Like, there's a lot of stuff that when the rubber hits the road, the paperwork stops mattering as much. But he didn't do all the stuff, and then he ghosted his retirement. He was not present for the signing of his retirement papers. Like, it's literally there. It's public knowledge. It's publicly available information. And so, he ran for Congress, and he ran to be a governor, and he's running to be vice president of the United States based on his military service, based on exaggerated claims of his military service. This is a really big deal, and of course it takes up some of my time because I am a member of the veterans community, but I'm also a member of several communities, like enlightenment communities, where I have to explain what this actually means. Like, what is going on with this? Why is this important to veterans? Why is this important to you as a U.S. citizen? Because, of course, the politically motivated on his side of the aisle will say, he did 24 years, don't you value that at all? Why are you dismissing his service? And, well, no one's dismissing his service. He did his time, and he could have continued to do his time. Just to be completely clear, you do not have to retire or leave the reserve units, the National Guard units, to serve in federal elected office. There are several senators and congressmen who are National Guard captains, colonels, sergeants, first sergeants, or whatever the Army ranks are. Okay, I'm Navy. I know basically what they are. So you don't have to give that up. There's a special deferment. You go inactive for your time of politics. There's stuff that you can do. But he's played up and exaggerated his service for political gain. And the big thing that the veterans have the problem with is that he doesn't acknowledge what happened. Look, if he's not going to do it, if he's not ready for the job, if he can't do the job, then you don't want him there, right? The deployment order comes up. He's been in there for 24 years. He's suddenly, I've got a young kid. He's got a 1-year-old daughter. He's going to Assistan, like, I mean, sorry, Iraq, but he's going to what is theoretically, potentially, an obnoxious and dangerous deployment, and he's done. Admit it publicly. Be like, hey, it's a young man's game. I'm not a young man. I'm not doing this. And then when you run for Congress, it's going to hurt you, but you say it. You say, hey, I did my time. I retired when deployment time came because I had to take care of my classroom. He's a teacher. I had to take care of my family. I had a daughter. I value the sacrifices of those who went, and so on and so forth. And, I thank you. But no, he basically lies about it. And the civilians on his political side just buy it. They just say, oh, finally, our side has a veteran, so they just kind of accept it, and it doesn't. It's not good. It's not honest. It's not. It's. I don't think that's a person you want to have setting policy. He has other issues. He did some things during 2020 that are obnoxious and arguably led to increased death tolls and so on and so forth. There's issues, but it's the military issue that I've been spending time on. The other side of the aisle has another veteran as a candidate for vice president, and he just did his time, did his service, and got out. And there's nothing big about it. He was in the Marine Corps. He was active duty. He did his thing. He got an honorable discharge. He's just a guy. He doesn't make any big special things about it. And that's honestly, in the veterans community, that's admirable. In the civilian political community, it's not, because it doesn't give you enough excitement at the convention or something. But in the doing stuff community, it's enough. He did the job. And so if you want to do comparisons, which is what people are wont to do, then you have to compare the quiet Marine who did his job with the loud governor who bravely ran away. And you can't explain it any other way other than bravely ran away, because of how he behaved afterwards, how he portrayed his stuff. And that's the problem. Anyway, that's a lot of talking already, and I haven't even touched on marina life. Sorry if that bores you, but that's very important in current domestic American politics, and it's taken up several hours of my last several days because, I'm researching and talking to people. I'm talking to people who are outside of the veterans community. So the sunken boat is up with tarps under the hull. I helped a little bit, not much, because it's not my job. I'm not being paid to rig chain hoists and, hope that the roof beams don't crash on my head. If I was being paid, I'd do it. I helped a little bit, mostly with, cleaning off the boat and emotional support. This boat is not it's not a core financial or live aboard thing for the people who own it, so that's good. Basically, the build stayed wet. No one had painted it. It's a steel hull. It eventually rusted through, and now there's tarps under it, slowing down the leak so it will stay afloat, so that it can go somewhere and get more steel plates welded on or get scrapped. I don't know which way it's going to go. Honestly, this is a situation where if you had the money, this is a 50-foot barge hull boat set up as a houseboat, and it's functionally the equivalent of a 2-bedroom apartment. And I don't mean a 2-bedroom camper, I mean a 2-bedroom apartment. It's huge. So this is a case where if you had the money and had a yard that would do the work, you just, you cut out some of the rust, you spray the rest, and you take 12 sheets of 1/4-inch steel and you just weld it all the way across, put a little bit of channel wherever you need strength. Excuse me. I have a frog in my throat this morning. And you tie it back up to the slip and you forget about it forever. Just epoxy seal the steel. Make sure you don't have any bad through holes. Make sure you have all your zincs. And just let it float. And it will do a wonderful job. You could live on the water, on the river, right here for, what, $400, $500, $600 a month, whatever, forever. And you have a boat to tinker on, and it's got enough deck space that you can play with dinghies. I mean, you can put it's 12 feet wide. You can put a dinghy crosswise on the back and build a dinghy, like build a small boat. So it's a fantastic amount of space for a marina liveaboard. You just have to make sure that the hull is going to hold. But it also means you have to take care of things. You have to check your bilge paint. You have to check your pumps. You have to do the basic maintenance. This is what happens when you don't check anything and you just trust it to last forever. Even fiberglass can run into issues. You just have to check things. Check once in a while, and the repairs are easy to deal with if you deal with them when you need to. So that's that. What else do we have? A lot of boats going around. We've been out a few times, and I have a lot more marina liveaboard concepts to talk about. A lot more to talk about with space. People have been asking, can 2 people live on a Catalina 30? And, there's been a lot of responses online with people who say, oh, you can't do it. There's just not enough storage space. There's a lot of living space. And storage space is one of those things that is very malleable, depending on who you are and what you need. If you need to have 6 electric guitars in your boat and 3 amps, then you need to have a different boat. But you also maybe shouldn't live on a boat on the water with stuff that isn't compatible with the water, like electric guitars. I have a ukulele, baritone ukulele. Actually, I have 3 of them, but I have I have 1 on the boat, 2 in storage, and it's great because it's a manufactured wood designed to resist the humidity changes. It's made to play on the beach, and it holds up fine. But there's no electronics in it, and you have to change the strings more often because corrosion, because the wire-wound strings on the top 2 strings just go. And, it's a concern. This is stuff you have to deal with. The water is part of it. I think in the next video, the next coffee chat, we're going to talk about living on the water permanently versus seasonally, and a little bit of history. Like, what is it like to actually live on the water versus be a boat person who lives on shore, maybe in an apartment, maybe even in a van, and just does boat stuff constantly. The working fisherman is a little bit different from the liveaboard. We do need to talk about that and how technology and history has changed things. So we'll get there. Right now, enjoy your coffee and stay sideways.